How did I get started in my career? I was lucky. I went to school. Well, I grew up, I was a poor kid in Beverly Hills. Lived in an apartment. My parents struggled to get me to Beverly Hills schools, and they happened to have a television studio and film production in there for high school, and I don't believe too many other schools had that in those days. And we shot movies on Super 8, and we had a video production room, and we had our own cable channel that was went through Beverly Hills. And I learned how to produce, direct, to write, and to do the technical side of things, and how to put something together without a budget. And I ended up, through a lot of different luck of the draw, I was originally thought I was going to be an actor, and I got into drama, didn't like it, and got thrown in this television class, and I went, wow, this is a lot of fun. And it ended up like living in that television studio the last couple of years in high school. And from that point, I learned how to direct and learned that's what I wanted to do. And then I went to UCLA, and everything I had learned in high school is what they were teaching me in college. And so my first major project in the television studio at UCLA, I did something very elaborate, and the professors told me that I didn't know what I was doing and didn't know how to do it. And I said, could I try? I think I do know how to do it. And they were waiting for me to fail, and I ended up doing very well. And at that point, I didn't really have to do a lot more work in my major. So it was lucky. It was lucky. Ended up teaching people. I did some other projects, and I directed a lot of commercials, and I assistant directed in the 1978 Jerry Lewis telethon with a director named Josh White, and I thought I was going to, my career was there, and I was going to be up. I was going to be the next, big director. Steven Spielberg was starting to come out, and that was going to be me. And then I couldn't get another job. It was just luck of the draw. They didn't want to hire young kids, right out of college to do directing. They wanted the old seasoned veterans. There weren't music videos. There weren't that kind of, programming for people, and I ended up struggling a lot, and got a job in post-production, and worked my way up. I always had a part of me was an entrepreneur. I always had that kind of push to do things my way, and I was always the leader, and I ended up getting to companies and doing more than they asked of me. It's an ethic that we don't see a lot now in the workers that work for us now. In my day, and I'm again not that old, but in my day, you did whatever you could, and you worked as long as you could, and hopefully they would see that and they would move you up. And so what I did was I ended up working. My first real job was for a company called the Z Channel. It was in Los Angeles. It was one of the first pay television channels out there. It was a artsy version of HBO. And I got a job there and moved to another company from there. I actually got hired there as their head of engineering, not quite knowing what I was doing, but I said, I'll try it. And they hired me, and I did okay. And then I moved into a company called Vidtronics, which was owned by Technicolor, and it was the #1 post-production facility back in its days. And I was able to slowly move up there. Actually, I quickly moved up because there was a lot of turnover in our business. Somebody leaves, and they hire somebody else to be their place. And I always said, something opens, I'll take it. Whatever it is, I'll take it. I want to move up. And the management liked that. They like to see people that are aggressive, that people that, that want to go over and above, the call of duty. And I never, when they wanted me to work overtime, I never said no. When they wanted me to stay late, I never said no. When they wanted me to come in the morning, in earlier shifts or change around, or when they, I never said no. And I kept moving from position to position, and I did a little bit of editing, and I was a position called a colorist, which now is a very high-end position. At that time, it was a low-end position, but where we would take film and we would transfer it to videotape, and we would color correct it, and it was made for something called home video. And it was in the early days when you could buy a Betamax or a VHS machine and you could watch a movie, and you would go to a store and you would buy a movie and you'd watch it at home. It's very similar now to DVD and Netflix and all of that, but in the early stages here. And we would master these movies and send them out. And all of a sudden the studio said, hey, this is a great business. We can rent movies instead of selling them, and that business took off, and I moved up from that point. And moving from several different companies, and typically in this business you'll stay at a company a few years and then get another opportunity if you're good, and you'll be stolen by another company. They take you away and they offer you a lot of money, and you go over there and then somebody else offers you more money. That's typically how you get raises in this business, is you move from company to company. And I ended up working for a lot of different companies and slowly moving up, and there was an opportunity at this company, the Post Group, where I'm one of the owners now, to manage a division. And we created an area called the Digital Center. It's the first digital post-production environment in the world. They spent a lot of money on building this. I was able to help them design it and able to help them also market it. And they gave me a management position, so I wasn't behind, in a console with clients anymore. I was outside managing people, and I liked it. And it allowed me to say, hey, this is something I want to do. And I've had several different iterations of management of divisions, and it was offered to me to become a general manager of a company. I did that. That wasn't very successful. A little bit of it was I didn't quite know everything I needed to know, and I always figured I could learn by doing, and I probably needed a little bit more business skills than I had, although I ended up learning them the hard way. But I moved into a company that was really not financially sound, and thought I could do my magic and get it going, and didn't work out the way you want. Not everything is successful, and after getting the company going and in the right direction, the owners didn't have any money to expand the company, to buy new equipment, and in this business it's very equipment intensive, expensive. Technology changes every day, and so you need to be there, and you need to have the money for capital investments and capital expenditures. So they didn't have that, and I was very much struggling, and I ended up at that point moving to another company that was a little more financially sound, and the owner of that company said, hey, look, I want to sell my company, get it to here, and I'll give you a piece of it. I'll give you a little percentage of it. So I had worked out a scenario and a deal where I got it to a certain area and I helped them sell it. I got some money out of it, but then I had to go find another place to go to work. And I did this for 3 or 4 other companies. I became a turnaround specialist. It was rewarding, but there was a lot of insecurity in where was I going to go next, and I didn't like that. So in 1995, after doing this for a long time and moving up and being paid very well, there was this thing coming out, this new technology called the internet. And I decided that I was going to take my money that I had gotten from the last company I worked in, and I was going to do an internet startup company. And I started a company with 2 other gentlemen called Creative Edge, and we designed websites. And we had an idea of, because I knew all the Hollywood community, of doing Hollywood and entertainment websites, and luck of the draw, we got big websites for movie trailers and sports. We got into the sports area, and we became the design company for the Los Angeles Dodgers, for Los Angeles Avengers Arena football team, for the Los Angeles Kings. So I built that company up, and even in the .com, when the bubble had burst back in 2000, the company was still doing quite well. And I decided that now was a time that computers were starting to marry television and film, and I needed to be in that. So I kind of put my thinking cap back on, and I got in with a partner over here, and we decided that we were going to integrate the web and post-production, and we now have 8 companies that do that. I run all the companies. I don't own all the companies, but I own little pieces of all the companies, but I run all the companies and manage the companies and hire really good managers to work under me. And that's the trick to doing, at least in this business, is to have good managers, people that make me look good. Early in the stages of business, you wear a lot of hats, and sometimes you have to do everything. And it's very hard to delegate responsibilities to other people, to other team members, to other divisions, because you're just not really comfortable with them doing it. But as you grow and mature, you have to do that, because you'll kill yourself. You'll work too hard. I went several years without vacations. My family didn't love me not being home for dinner a lot and things like that. And you have to kind of put that all in place. Early stages, you want to work in your career, you want to work real hard. Then there's a time where you need to think about yourself and go in that direction. So a careful balance and learning how to hire the right kind of people to manage your companies under you that will take a lot of the burden off you, but also allow your company to grow. So now, where I am now is the big idea, the big picture, comes from out of this office here and my team from here, and we develop and we grow and we figure out when things aren't going right, and a lot of times in business they don't go right. Not everything is like Bill Gates and Microsoft and all of that. Most of them do. We have divisions of our company here are run by seasoned professionals. There are some people that are younger that have aggressively gotten into positions and are in some form of training or learning as they're going, basically. But most cases we do a lot of very high-end programs and films here, and we're not able to have somebody just training there. We do believe, though, in having students or having new associates or interns hands-on experience. I really push with that. It's not good to have somebody sit and watch somebody. They need to interact. They need to understand. They don't need to go get coffee. They need to go there and learn how tape machines work and learn how storage works and how cameras work and how to put things together here. I want to see people that, our prerequisite for getting a job here is that you're not happy with where you're at, you want to move up. There are areas here where we have seasoned professionals that are editors and colorists and visual effects people here, and I want them to keep being motivated to move ahead, to grow, to get new technology, not to just sit there and go, I'm fine with what I'm doing, give me my next job. Paying people well, treating them well, understanding that they have lives other than work here, and talking to them. One of the things that I believe is important is my door is always open here, and I want to talk to people. Some employees will feel free and come up, some won't. Some will send email and don't want to talk about it. So you have a lot of different ways of communicating with people. But communication is important. We are an entertainment and communication company here, and we fail if we can't talk to our employees. Managing the employees here. Personalities, it's not just a routine every day where somebody comes to work and goes home and they're fine. It's not a factory here. A lot of times you're dealing with people who have personal problems at home, family members that are sick, haven't had a lot of vacation time and are quite burnt out. There are other times when people are just angry at driving in the traffic in Los Angeles, or frustrated because a client is late, or they were supposed to start at 9 and they don't start at 11, and it affects their day-to-day personalities. So a lot of my job is being a psychologist, lay down on the couch, tell me what it's about. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Managing people working together, managing the team, it's very much like a sports team. It's very much like you have your starting lineup, but you have to have your backup team in case somebody doesn't do well, or somebody's out sick, or we get overwhelmed with work and we have too much work and we have to have people doubling up here. We have to have a strong bench, a strong, backup team here. Hands-on experience. When a client is talking to me, I understand the technology. I understand the dollars and cents. A lot of companies, our competition, are run by numbers people, CFOs and people who don't understand the logistics. Sometimes you have to lose money on a job to get something in 2 or 3 months from now that's a lot bigger than that. There are times when you do a lot of things for free and you add it on to the bill at another area here. There are times when things don't go very well, equipment breaks down, people make mistakes here, and you have to be comfortable enough to talk to the client and say, we didn't do so well, we need to redo this. And sometimes they're not very happy because what we do and the programs that we do here, they have air dates, they have release dates, and we have to make that happen. And sometimes when things are late, we have to pay for satellite time for it to get from LA to New York, or we have to pay for special couriers to hand carry it on airplanes and take it to other cities. That happens. And as the technology improves, it's harder to do the work. It used to be very simple. Now it's difficult. Now there's 100 different ways of doing this thing. High definition, 2K workflows, the new red camera workflow. People are shooting on industrial cameras. Some people are shooting on home video cameras. One of our shows, Numbers, which is on CBS, they have a segment in each show where they shoot with a home video camera, and it's a point of view of kind of walking through with one of their people here, and that technology has to be in high definition and has to match the rest of the technology. It's a 30-frame technology versus a 24-frame technology, so conversions and has to be done right, and the right people have to present that and then hand it to the editor and cut into the show and then color correct it and hand it off to visual effects. And so every show has a workflow. That's the big word now we have, is workflow. Used to be is, here's the project, let's edit and we'll ship it. Now it's what format, high definition, what color space, is it going to go out to film? Is it going to be in a theater? Is it going to be on television? Is it sound 5.1 surround? Is it 7.1 surround? Is it just stereo? Is there a music and effects track? Is it going to be overdubbed in another language? A studio will make a project here and want to be able to sell it to different markets. We need to know that technology. It's one of the things I hate the most, but it's a regular occurrence. We typically have a once a year CapEx budget, but we are always buying big and little things throughout the years. Depends on what comes out technology-wise. Depends on what our clients are asking for. There is a new form of high definition that comes out every 2 weeks just about, and we need to know that the equipment we have can handle that. Sometimes we have to say, no, we don't want to be in that area. And that's difficult. It's hard to turn down business, but sometimes you have to do that. Losing money is not very good. Well, I read the Wall Street Journal, which is the best management book out there, but I study a lot of business. My dealings with some of the other companies I work very closely with their chief financial officers, with the banking industry, and I understand about issues with taxes, with depreciation, with budgets, with salaries, with profit and loss, with even collections, accounts payable, accounts receivable. Every day I am negotiating a deal with somebody on how to pay for something or how to buy something. So, if I had to do it all again, I probably would have taken, maybe a minor in business, but I ended up with a minor in journalism. It's just kind of what happened. The biggest challenge has actually been this year, and that is we've been in major industry strikes have happened this year. The beginning of the year, actually the end of last year, was a Writers Guild strike, which affected the industry not just directly but indirectly for a lot of people. A lot of people rethought their careers and got out of this business because of it. It was a 100-day strike. Billions of dollars were lost during that strike, not millions, but billions. It affected everybody from us in the post-production area to the people who had the dry cleaners next to the studio who are no longer there, and the restaurants no longer there. And then after the strike was settled, work came back in very quickly, but there was this looming Screen Actors Guild strike. And the Screen Actors Guild do not have a deal with the studios. So right now the studios are not producing feature films. They're producing their television, but they're a hold on feature films. 40% of our business is feature films. So we are experiencing a significant slowdown in that business area. Telling the truth. You always get caught when you lie to somebody. You always get caught when you don't tell it like it is. One of the things that I do with any of my customers is if they want, I'll give them my cell phone number. They can call me at home. They can wake me up in the middle of the night. Some of them do. Most of them don't, but if they have a problem, I want them to feel like they can talk to the guy at the top, and I'll at least listen. Not always can fix the problem myself, but I can certainly find somebody who can, if it can be fixed. But a lot of our business reputations of people of just saying yes to everything and failing. It's happened. We don't do that. We tell the truth, and we sometimes don't get all the projects, but we don't take on projects that we know we can't handle. I actually have the secret that one of my college professors taught me, and that's to put together a task list. And a lot of people, I hear this story from everybody, walk in the morning and go, I have so much stuff to do. I don't know how I'm going to get it all done. Well, I walk in the same way, but I have this list in front of me, and I actually do something a little bit different probably than most people. Is I actually write it down. I don't type it up. I write it down. And I may have 20 items on my list of tasks to do for the day, or projects to look at during the day. And all of a sudden I start crossing off my list, and at the end of the day, in the early morning, most of the time, I'm done with everything. So organization, planning, being organized, making sure that you're not running from meeting to meeting without a break in between things. And that happens a lot, where meetings get pushed back, things are running late, and you have to kind of manage your time that way. But the most important thing is to be organized, is to know where everything is in your office, to be able to easily get to things. It's very nice with virtual private networks and being able to log onto my computer from home, cell phones, email, all of that, to be able to address tasks like that. But on the bad side of it now, especially in our society now, people are dependent on you to answer their emails or to answer their phone calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have a lot of times where a client sends me an email at 3 in the morning, wants to know why I didn't answer it. And I said, well, I was sleeping. Oh, well, I thought you're there all the time. I said, well, the phone is next to my bed, but I don't hear emails going off, and I certainly don't get up to type emails in the middle of the night, things like that. But our society is very dependent on BlackBerries and cell phones and PDAs and all of that, and being able to get data back and forth. I'm a lot of times out for dinner, and I'm answering emails at the table. Maybe it's a little rude to do, but that's what you have to do to have the edge on everybody. It's responding back to their needs. Probably combining all the companies that we have now and creating a workflow of post-production start to finish. We can handle some or all of a project from beginning to end. And the more you use with us, the more money you save. So we've put a very successful plan in place to take a client and hold their hand and walk them through a project. And at the end, we have something that's really great. I mean, a good example is HBO Sunday night is Chris Rock is having a special. Well, we're still editing that right now. We have to ship it tonight to New York to HBO for quality control. You know, but they come here. We did the Justin Timberlake special last year. They come here because they know we can handle that, and we have the staff to handle it, and the engineering to make sure that things don't break, and the operations staff to make sure that the right people are here, and so on and so on, and all the way through the project. The clients feel comfortable working with us. The Post Group is our largest company, but we actually have camera rental. We have editorial rental, Avids and Final Cuts. We have web design. We have DVD duplication and replication in Valencia. We manufacture DVDs out there for studios and for entertainment clients. We have sound services. We have digital intermediate services to finish feature films. And we have the Post Group, which does television and feature films, shows like CSI, House, Numbers, Amazing Race, and then a lot of, you know, big movies and small movies. The movies, again, have slowed down this time of year. We should be doing a lot of Christmas movies right now, and they just aren't happening. Probably on a 60-minute drama show, around 6 to 7 weeks. The film will be shot, we'll transfer it digitally to storage medium, and they will cut the show for about 4 weeks, get it set up, and then we'll conform, color correct, and do the sound elements on it. Typically somewhere to $40,000 to $50,000 an episode. Depending on, you know, different films have different budgets. Every film has different shooting schedules. Some shoot on film, some shoot on electronic. So no, there's no real set number in that. Sometimes they're here 2 to 3 years. Sometimes they're here 3 or 4 months. We just finished a movie for Oliver Stone called W, which is some type of biopic on George Bush. I haven't actually seen it, but shot over the summer, and it will release October. So that was a quick turnaround for that type of project. But we've had feature films. We did a movie called We Own the Night, which came out last year. That was here for 2+ years. It really depends on their budgets and what they have or have not to, you know, time-wise to do. The future is heading more to desktops and cheaper equipment, but a lot of the work will be able to be done at home. A lot of things that used to be on, you know, major projects with visual effects and with editing can be done on inexpensive systems at home. The quality may not be exactly where you want, but sometimes when you don't have the budget for something, you do it that way. But I mean, I think this direction that we're going in, a lot of people are taking things in-house. So we have to keep the edge on why come here. It's talent-driven, it's the people, it's the experience here. It's our rental space where we rent out rooms here. We're like a hotel. You come in and say, I need to work on a movie for 6 months, and I need 4 rooms, 2 for editors and 2 for post supervisors. And we have a kitchen here, and we feed them. We make cookies every day at 3 o'clock, and there's a variety of things that we do. You know, on the weekends, our clients come here. Everything is secured, so you need to have badges to get in and out of the facility. So, to avoid piracy and the wrong people being in the facility. You know, if they want their cars washed or if they want their clothes taken to the cleaners or any of that stuff. Now, they don't get that for free. We charge them for that. But that's, you know, what we have to do to keep people here in this environment. About 50-50. On the business side, we run PCs. On the creative side, we run Macs. We have a high standard of quality here, and we make sure that every project is quality controlled, quality checked before it leaves our facility here. And if it's not right, we don't send it. We did a movie last year, a documentary on The Who, on the band The Who, which was multi-formats, elements from black and white and color over the 30-plus years The Who has been together, and it was a very difficult project to handle technically, but we got through it. Don't. No, I'm just kidding. The advice is make sure that it's what you want to do and that you're prepared to work hard. Long hours, schedules are very difficult. There are times when you're here for days without going home. There are times when, you have that thing to do with your family that you just don't get to do. Television is on the air 24 hours a day. Movies are being made all the time. You have to work around the schedules of your clients. A lot of times you think things are just going to be a few hours to do and they turn into days or weeks. So you have to understand that. You have to work very hard to get where you want to be. You have to have a lot of patience and not react and get angry on things, because a lot of things will frustrate you in this business. And just be prepared, it's going to happen. It will happen. Something will go wrong. It always does. Just be prepared and say, okay, let's fix it and move on. Again, honesty, understanding, talking to people. I've been through just about every crisis imaginable, and just telling them you've been there and you'll help them. But typically the crisis we are is never enough time to finish something. And there's a deadline and we have to get it done. And sometimes beyond our control things happen. We don't get the elements in time. The editor decides that, or the edit staff decides everything needs to change after it's all been done. We get notes from the networks to change everything. I will give you a interesting example of a crisis that we had nothing to do with it. What should have aired tonight on CBS on Numbers was an episode about a commuter train and a freight train crashing. And in Los Angeles, as you know, we had a couple weeks ago a pretty bad train crash. This was shot a month and a half before the train crash happened. And the story is so amazingly like what happened. Even the driver, the commuter train was on his cell phone, and was working a double shift. I mean, it's very much the same story going on there. And the network said, we can't air this. So they scrambled to finish the show early and to take this show and cut it up a little bit and put a disclaimer at the beginning that this was shot before the train accident, and they're doing this in memory of the people. And so it's very difficult. The odds of this happening are, who knows? But somebody wrote a script and it actually happened. And so this was the show that was going to air tonight. So it got put on hold and they rushed to complete another show earlier. Maybe the show didn't get as much attention as it needed, but it got done. And there was a lot of overtime and a lot of people having to move their schedules around to get this done. But this happens a lot, not to this extent, but there are times when the network makes a change on something and the air date changes, or there's a emergency and the show never gets on the air, or it needs to be recut, or last minute the network says we didn't like the performance of somebody, go recut it, and It happens. You need to know how to do every job in your department. You need to know, you need to be able to, when somebody from your department walks in and you're the manager, to understand when they're complaining about something or when they don't understand something. You need to be able to tell them that. So you can't be somebody who just has good business skills thrown into something and not understand, the process. So that's very important. So we like our managers who've come up the ranks instead of walking in and saying, I'm a smart guy, I need to be a manager.